Call us to the order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There we go.
Okay, roll call, please.
Harry Bear. Here. Paul Cuny.
Here.
Joe Latte.
Here.
Robert Laraway.
Here.
Brent Beebe. Here. Earl Shannon.
Here. We have everyone here. Agenda's before you. Anything to add or subtract? If not, it'll stand. If you accepted, no objection. Then we have the consent agenda. Anything you want to take out to talk about? Not, Cheryl recognized. Motion by Laraway to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Seconded by Latte. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. We are in a position that we haven't been in before. We have several committee appointments to be made tonight, and all the incumbents want the position, and we have 2 or 3 options that we haven't had before for other people. So I applaud everybody, finally gotten some people. It's an unusual position for us to be able to have that, a choice. But what I'm going to do is, with the council's approval, is I'm going to go with the incumbents, Leo Wickert and Jeff Gray on the planning commission. And 2 ZBA members, Marlon Howe and Jim Urban. And 1 member for the Board of Ethics, which would be Richard Coolman. Without objections, those are my appointments. Any objections? Okay, seeing none, thank you. So, Mr. Manager.
Good evening. A few quick points to highlight before we get into the bulk of the meeting. The community generously donated $8,975 this year for fireworks. The show cost was $15,000 plus the $750, $800 we had to pay MMR, plus, obviously staff and that. So we were over that halfway benchmark. That's what we always try to do, is cover roughly half of the cost of the show and we pick up the other half out of our general fund. So all in all, I think it was a good show. This is the first year with this new company. I didn't hear any negative feedback from the community on anybody. Maybe a little shorter than in years past, but some of that is due to the fact that with that new home on Fairway Drive, we've had to alter the type of show we can produce now. So we have to go with smaller shells for the safety distance, that kind of stuff. So, there's some other factors that go into what type of show people get that, tied to how safe we can do it from the dam. Speaking of the dam, on August 20th, there will be an exercise at Isabella County, I think at Emergency Management, with the county, the state, and the LIPOA to go through the emergency action plan for the dam. The state was generous enough to author one for our dam for free this year. The dam, as you know, is owned by the LIPOA, but has some oversight by the Drain Commissioner's office, and so they're going to do kind of a tabletop walkthrough exercise of the EAP, so everyone's comfortable with it in the unforeseen event that it may actually have to be used sometime. So all E. coli tests this summer have been good for the lake. The health department has been out every week so far. None of them have been high. Working on the replacement for the sign down at DPW. I've contacted 1 company so far, looking at a couple others, but the plan there is to take that sign where we have, the marquee, move that a little bit out towards the road and replace it with a digital display. Digital only facing the one direction still. There's just not a way really, I think, to do it and get both sides there. So then we can look at potentially next fiscal year doing something maybe at the north end, maybe down here to get north south traffic on Cold Water. Or a different location if there's something better to do, but working on that. John Deere,
Same size?
not sure, probably similar in size, yeah. The John Deere's finally arrived, a new tractor. Jerry's been out mowing, Autumn Olive extensively throughout the village, working very well. I saw him the other day on Channel Drive. He had the flail mower vertical, kind of hedge rowing back, so good stuff there. Next Monday, I have a meeting with Kings to discuss our franchise renewal. This is something that you guys authorized and directed earlier in the year. Their schedules finally allowed them the freedom to sit down on a weeknight, barring any truck breaking or anything like that, but we've had initial talks, nothing really, I think is gonna be surprising that we bring something back to you guys. And then a few inquiries we had this month that I wanted to pass along. Can we have the golf course put up a net along Clubhouse Drive, along the driving range? Someone's vehicle got hit. Can we install a giant crosswalk in front of the LIPOA office as well as a deer crossing sign at that location? There are some issues go with that because it is a major street. And one of the issues there is in front of the LIPOA parking lot, that's 100 feet of frontage. So where is the best way that something like that could work? Because if people are coming from the campground, they would be crossing more at the north. And then they'd have to walk over to get in, or are they coming from the campground, going in front of the office and crossing over by the driveway? So not opposed to working on something there. Because it is one of our higher pedestrian points in the village outside the golf course. We had a person inquiry us if we could mail out delinquent tax bill notices, so everyone gets their bill sent out in July. We don't do a second billing because we don't do winter taxes, so we've never in the past sent out a delinquent notice that you haven't paid your bill, by November, December, whatever. And then we had someone call that was obsessed that their property is assessed too high compared to their other house. We've no control over that. That's done through your township assessor, not through us. So that is my report for you folks tonight.
And crosswalk in front of that building, would that count for, like the signs count for Act 51 money?
Yeah, one of the things that I've been looking at is there some type of solution that we could use for our non-motorized expense there? Even something perhaps as like even a moderately raised crosswalk. So you'd have a 6-inch rise to get to something that you can plow, something that isn't, a big detriment, but would also be something that would force southbound traffic to slow down too, at that point, because it does drop from 40 to 30 at that location. And highlighting that where you have the crosswalk, but then painting the road so that you would have an arrow indicating that rise, so drivers would be aware of it and hopefully address the issue that way. So yeah, that's what we're looking into.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay, thank you. Did the LIPOA has sent any report over?
I went to it, I can share.
Okay, thank you.
There wasn't a ton, there was 96 runners and 34 walkers in the 5K. They had 887 paid members, which is down 10% roughly. Then they talked about some dredging stuff and how George was the lead contact for 7. And they approved that 6450 on the mulching bill with now out of discussion. That was about the gist of the meeting.
Okay,
Well, good.
thank you.
It wasn't terribly long.
No, all right, good, thank you. All right. Why everybody's here. Cityhood discussion. Agenda 6, item 6. Opportunity for committee to ask questions. Tim, you have a review for everyone?
Yeah, how do you want me to go through my?
Why don't you go through your review and then that'll catch people up to what's already been talked about. And then their questions may be answered, or they'll have other ones that'll dovetail nicely.
Let me bring it up here because I didn't print it. So we had our first community meeting last Tuesday night here in this lovely room. All in all, I thought it went well. It was well attended. Some of the questions that we got, I'm just going to run through them real quickly here for everybody. And then I want to go through some road funding stuff perhaps after they do that or before, up to you.
Maybe before, so they have an idea of what happens with the money,
So,
how
does
the money works.
Yeah, so the first question was, does the fire department have a say in whether or not they want to provide services to the community if we become a city? Yeah, we do have to enter an agreement with them. The financial reality is if we become a city, you know, they need that revenue from a different place if they don't come back and contract with us. All the conversations we've had with them have been good and productive. I wouldn't anticipate an issue, especially if we're not trying to go after the division of assets at the township level. What is the projected yearly outflow of tax dollars to the townships? So right now, our residents pay 1 mil rolled back to their respective townships, which comes out to about, 0.98, 0.97, give or take. Our taxable value in the community is $118 million. So you're looking at a good $115,000 a year that is coming out of Lake Isabella to our two townships. Most going to Sherman, probably 60-40 split going to Sherman compared to Broomfield, give or take. Do we have to have a cemetery? No, we do not have to have a cemetery. I mean, people are dying to get into them, folks.
Yepper.
Sure. If we become a city, will the political structure change? That was a question of, do we stay council manager? Can we have strong mayor? So the charter process is where you could change that. So a charter commission could elect to go to a strong mayor. I don't believe there's a strong desire to go to that format. The council manager format has been what's been in our charter since 1998 here. Are we still going to contract most of our DPW operations? That is definitely going to be the case. Will becoming a city mean the water system is expanded into more areas of the community? The water system is owned and operated and maintained by our friends at Isabella County. It is not our utility structure, and we have no intention of taking it off their hands. How fast are we growing? Great question. So since 2020, we've had almost 60 new homes built in the community. We had 16 new home permits last year. From 2010 to 2020, we grew 9% in our census number. And we know we were undercounted just based on the work we did with the Census Bureau afterwards. So yeah, we're definitely still growing at a healthy pace. I would certainly expect to see us well over the 2,000 mark at the next census number. Percentage of seasonal homes residents, according to the 2020 census, that number is probably down to about 15% now. Out of our little over 1,000 homes.
So why is that significant for us talking about cityhood now?
It'll be very important when I talk to you about road funding in a few minutes. What about commercial zoning? Will becoming a city mean we have more businesses? So the reality in business attraction, it's really done more through companies like Esri, Experian that have all these market data packages available for companies to look at in terms of what's your income in the community, what's your disposable income, commute times, all this type of stuff. So whether we're a city or a village doesn't change any of those metrics that those companies are going to look at. What would change it fundamentally more than anything else is if we had a sewer system, which we're obviously not intending to do, plan, or have any thoughts of doing in the near future. How much will our taxes go up? Well, that's the premise we're going here, is that we're trying to not have your taxes go up. So if we could have your 1 mil come to us, so our tax cap goes from 1 to 2, we can reinvest those dollars into our community, into a couple of 3 core areas that we're looking at. My favorite one, if we become a city, will we have to pay the village manager a severance package or since we'll be a city?
Can we decide that now?
I'm anticipating that you're gonna keep me around. I don't have the golden parachute in my contract, so. Can the village just negotiate with the townships to have them return tax dollars to the community? I mean, we could certainly ask. Biggest benefit and biggest con, we went over the fact that all your services are gonna be here in one place. The con, potentially needing to have another staff person to help with some of the extra tax billing, that kind of stuff. Is it true that it only takes 100 residents to become a city? No, it takes 100 residents to advance the petition in the process. Can our taxes go up? Yeah, if the charter commission doesn't go with the vision we have of going from 1 mil to 2 mil, if they want to do something different, that would fundamentally change the conversation, which is not what we are advocating from this table here. What'll be different from what we're currently doing? realistically, the biggest difference for the community is your elections are gonna be here, your assessing is gonna be here, and you're gonna have a border review from here. Otherwise, we are business as usual, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, 8 to 5, that range. How will it work to fund the police department? Being a city or a village has no bearing whatsoever on what we do with police. We can do it now, we can do it then. Who paid for Marshall Hooker services? That was primarily through Sherman Township. We did contract with the township for some of his services to cover the Broomfield side of the village. And will this affect our ability to get grants? Not really. The biggest implication in the grant world is our per capita income, our median values, which are all pretty high. So we don't score well when it comes to need-based grant applications. There are probably a handful of programs that are restricted to cities, poor communities, that type of thing, but in general, that's not going to be a big bearing on it. My own personal takeaways from that meeting, we need to lean a lot more into explaining the funding part of the deal in terms of what we would be looking to reinvest in our community. And the three things that we highlight were public safety, roads, and potentially the dredging project. So I worked on doing kind of a crash course in road funding for everybody. It's not something that you're gonna like, as it tells you where the problem is. So starting from the top down in terms of what the world looks like for some road funding. So that. There we go. So this is the National Functional Classification System, the NFC. It's done by the U.S. Department of Transportation, and it defines what are federal aid eligible roads. So these are roads that you can get a lot of state grants for. In the Village of Lake Isabella, you have Coldwater Road, River Road, Drew Road, Rollin Road, which are not our roads. Those are all road commission roads. So none of our roads in the village are federal aid eligible. So our primary source for funding comes through Act 51. And Act 51 governs our transportation funding in the state of Michigan. It takes your gas tax, it takes your registration fees, it takes other vehicle taxes, and it dumps them into a big pot of money known as the Michigan Transportation Fund. You're paying 31 cents a gallon this year in that tax, whether it's gas or diesel. And that's on top of your sales tax and that federal fuel tax to go back to pay for those NFC roads that don't come here. That MTF fund is then divided up further into three pools, with of course Big Brother at MDOT getting a big chunk, 39.1%. And then the road commissions, the 83 of them, getting another 39.1%, leaving cities and villages getting the small piece of the pie at 21.8%. We have some more porridge, please. Now it's a formula. That's literally off the MDOT's website. You can go there, you can download the formula yourself, you can figure all this out. But it's pretty simple. You take your population, you take your miles, if you have trunk lines, which we do not, because we don't have an MDOT route through the community. And then you multiply those into this formula. You get a bonus if you're over 2,000 people. There goes your why that population number matters. So our population number is 1,829. If we had been over that 2,000 mark, we would have gotten a multiplier of 10% on our Act 51 money. So over the decade, that would have been $400,000. Would have been a nice chunk of change. It would have been a couple of projects, but it didn't happen that way. And what it really looks like for cities and villages is you have a per capita allocation of $68.84 per person towards your major street, $22.95 towards your locals, and then a mileage allocation of 19 grand and change for your majors and 5,000 and change towards your local. The major streets have that population multiplier. So if we would have had that extra 10%, it would have been going into the major street fund. Local streets also require 50% match for construction from any other activity. So general fund, special assessment, grants, road millages, that kind of stuff. Act 51 states that the first priority must be your major streets. So you can transfer money from major to local. You can do 50%. Has to be done by resolution, or if you have an adopted asset management plan, which we do, you can do a full 100% of that year's major street money to your local streets. That's a great thing to think about because some places have enough money to do that, we don't. So you look at our local networks, cities and villages in our area. Mount Pleasant, there's a big dog on the block, they got 75.93 miles of streets in their community. 24.48 miles of major, then Elma, then Big Rapids, and then hey, look who's coming in at number 4. Being number 4 in this list is not great. Because if you look at our population, it's considerably outside the norm of what the other networks of our size have to fund it with. So our population at 1829 is considerably less than Clare, which has a similar size network. St. Louis has a similar size network. Ithaca, slightly smaller, but similar size. They're getting closer to our funding scenario, but they also have a lot more major streets than we do. Then you get into the smaller communities, the Colemans, the Edmores, the Shepherds, the Rosebush, you know, they're pretty far down on the list. So you might be asking, what on earth is a major street? In your community, it's El Camino Grande, it's Bonanza, it's Clubhouse, it's Birdie, it's Baseline where it's paved by the gas station out to where the pellet factory used to be. Queensway down to DeQuessa from there up to the village limits, and all of Bundy Drive for a total of 7.8 miles. For that 7.8 miles, that's what the formula looks like for the next fiscal year for the state. Our population gets us 125,902. The miles get us 154,705 for a grand total of 280,607. Almost $36,000 a mile. Now we, as I mentioned, have an asset management plan. Part of that plan is we Payzer rate all of our streets. You're required by law to Payzer rate your federal aid eligible roads. We have not, so we don't have to do it, but we do it anyway. So our major street score is up to a 6.32. That's in the good range. So the bottom you have 8, 9, 10, those are new, very good. 5, 6, 7, those are good. You get below a 4, you know, you're getting some issues, but you'll notice that the trend has gone upward. And that trend is because since 2019, we've invested over $750,000 into our major streets. So we'd saved up money. And the first part we did was the Queensway, mill and fill, kind of in front of the LIPOA office, up to El Camino, and then a little bit on El Camino there. Birdie Drive was in 2020. That was a fun project to get off the ground because COVID, the governor said you couldn't do anything for a few weeks, a few months. Then we did El Camino. Then we did our chip and fog on Queensway, Bundy, and DeQuessa. And then last year was our mill and fill job out front here, where we also had our category B money that we got from the state for that grant to cover half that project cost. Our local streets, 18.45 or 18.54 miles. 17 of that is paved, 1.5 is gravel. That's a lot of streets, folks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of streets, it's a lot to plow, it's a lot to maintain. But surely we should get a whole bunch of money to make 18 miles of roads, right? Based on our population, we get just about $42,000 for the population and another 97,000-ish for the mileage. So you're under $140,000. $140,000 to maintain 18.5 miles of road. That's $7,500 a mile. And you're gonna see that in this chart right here. Yeah. That is what our local street score has been over years, because we just simply do not have the funds to invest to do anything more than plow it and mow it and do, you know, very minimal maintenance on it. You know, we did the major street special assessment or the local street special assessment paving project in 2007. That was 14 miles. So that's when we started Payzer rate the whole network, because we said, we're gonna have a great data point that's 80% of the network. And you can see over time how that has went down pretty consistently, which is what happens with asphalt. The Payzer system that we use to rate it looks at the physical distress of the road, the cracking, the rutting, that kind of stuff, and then it assigns it a value for that road segment. And then what we do is we take the length of that segment, multiply, you know, the number by the feet to get a weighted score, and divide it by the total length to get your average score throughout the length of the street. How do we get our local streets, well, people paid for it. And they paid handsomely for it. So in 2003, we started with the Fairway Drive Special Assessment District. Residents on Fairway paid $1,800 for their assessment. They could pay that over 10 years with interest. They could pay it off at any time. Following year, we did Queensway, another 18 and change assessment on each lot. So if you have a 2 lots like me, you're paying twice. Castle, Sevilla, and Putter were both done in 05. Those ranged anywhere from 14 to 2,200 almost. And then by about that time, we had enough people coming in and saying, we want our streets, we want our streets, we want our streets. So we said, look, rather than put the onus on you, property owner, to go around, get the petition signed, all that kind of stuff, we'll initiate the project, we'll send out opt-out cards. So if you don't want your street paved and half your street says they don't want your street paved, we won't do it. But if you do, don't send your card back. So we ended up having several streets adopted out. Channel Drive West, Northview, Avion, Camp Oak Court, Bishop Seabury. Those were the main ones that stayed gravel. So we still have those 1.5 miles of gravel plus the 1.7 miles that were previously paved. So that was Essex, Crown Point, Red Fox, Eagle View, Pueblo Pass, part of it. Those were all paved previously prior to us through the developer when they were being developed. So getting back to that, pretty nice that we have the 4th biggest network. It's, something proud of to maintain. But when you look at how that relates dollar wise to our neighbors, we are investing $1 for every $2 they are for a similar size network. Clare, which is close to us in size in terms of the network and the lower population, they see this problem and they passed a $3 million road funding package in their community. So the same amount of money that we're investing in the lake, they're investing into their roads. So they have a similar taxable value. So, add another 300,000 to that 544. And you're seeing, a network similar in size to us at 850,000, 892,000, Ithaca at 550. So, the numbers don't lie in terms of the hurdles that we face specifically with our local streets. And when you break that down on a per mile basis, a good metric on how you're measuring up, Rosebush is the only one who gets less money per mile for their major streets than we are. Nobody gets less for their local streets than we do. The problem with our network is it's big and we have a smaller population. So Act 51 rewards density. All the state formulas reward density. And we have a big lake in the middle of our community that we all have to drive around. We don't have density, So that is the road funding part of the equation. I'm going to work on something similar with policing. But with that, I would say it's probably good for any questions you may have, folks.
What's the advantage of going for cityhood now because of our population?
Perfect question. So one of the
reason why we're doing this.
So the reason why this is timely for us. If you're a village, you can pursue incorporation as either a home rule city or a 5th class city. And it's based upon density and population. If you have a population of under 2,000 and you are an incorporated village, you don't have to meet a density threshold. You are allowed then to incorporate as a 5th class city. There is one difference between a 5th class city and a home rule city. A 5th class city, you have to have your council commission election at large. You're not allowed to have districts. So when I say nothing could theoretically change in terms of our governmental structure, we already elect everybody at large in the community. We don't have districts in the spell. If you are over 2,000. You have to then incorporate as a home rule city, and you have to have a density of 500 people per square mile. Now, we haven't gone down the road of, can we exclude the lake from the density part of this discussion with powers that be at the state of Michigan? But assuming we cannot, assuming that it's the area within inside the boundaries, which right now are 4.5 square miles. To meet that density requirement, you would need to have a population of 2,250. At 1829, which is our population from 2020. Factor in, we've had another 60 homes plus another 50 that we knew were missed. Play out another 5 years of even marginal growth. You've got another 140-ish homes potentially that are gonna have people in it that could count towards that population number. And if you model that out based on average home size and those type of things and trends in that demographic, you're gonna be really close probably to 2150 to 2250 in that range. So if you hold off on this window now and you don't give it a serious look, you may be boxed out of doing it for the 2030s because you'll be over 2,000 but not have the density unless you decide to alter your boundaries and take some properties potentially out of the community to get you into that threshold. So that is why we're looking at it again. I went through my notes. We started looking at this in 2006. We
Right.
had another look at it in 2011. Knowing that is the technicality in the law, this is the opportunity, I think, to talk about it seriously as a community and see if it's the right thing to do. So
We'd have to wait until 2030, whatever,
2040,
2040 rather.
yes.
When we-
On
And that,
me.
No.
that's a worst case scenario. You may come in at 2,300,
Yeah.
you may be perfectly fine. You may come in at 1950, who knows?
Right.
But based on the growth we are seeing, you're gonna be close to that spot. It'd be great if we were over, because then you get another liquor license at 2250.
And the other thing is you don't have to rewrite the entire charter.
Correct. So the Home Rule City Act is very similar to the Home Rule Village Act. The things that are already in our charter are very transportable into a city charter without changing anything more than village to city, president to mayor, those type of things. Like our charter meets, as far as I've been able to tell, everything we would need to incorporate as a city in terms of what's already
So
existing.
you're not having to rewrite it from the ground up.
No, and that's a strategic advantage that we have as opposed to a general law village that does not have its own charter. So like Shepherd is a general law village, Breckenridge is a general law village. They don't have a charter. They operate under the General Law Village Act, which serves as their charter. But if they were to come to this point, they would have to start from scratch and draft their own charter, just like your father and his group did back in the 90s when we incorporated as a village,
Right, they wrote the charter.
They wrote that charter.
And so that work has been done, doesn't have to be redone except for some tweaks. If you want to. And then this is basically the other reason we're looking at this is because it's tax neutral.
That's been how I present to you.
Right.
That's the vision I've cast to you is that, if we incorporate, we keep the tax cap in our charter, but it goes from 1 to 2. Well, that 1 mil you're paying the township just stays here. That's,
And it doesn't go to the township.
it doesn't go to the
stays
township,
here.
it stays here. You're looking at potentially $84,000 roughly. So by the time you do the increased mill and you charge that 1% admin fee off your tax collection, because as a city, you do the assessing, you do the tax collection for your county, your schools, those type of things. You're required then to take 1% off the top to cover that assessing cost. So based on our values, that's another 25,000 right there. Based on the added costs that we see in terms of hiring a assessor through a contract, potentially a part-time position in the office to help with some of the billing, running elections and board of review, you're looking at 80,000, 83,000 potentially in expenses. That's if you have a big election year. and 84 left over at the end of the day. I mean, that's money we can put into roads, that's money we can put into police, that is money that we can invest back into our community. And not make you pay more.
Right.
Questions? Name and address.
George John, 1283 Queens
Thank you.
Way. What specifically, Tim or council, are the downsides? If anything.
Like I said, the biggest downside that we've talked about would be that potential having to have another staff person. Outside of that, you're gonna have to obviously contract with an assessor. I personally like the model that we have here where you have staff as you're serving your clerk and treasurer roles as opposed to the township level where you have that as an elected official. Only because in a smaller unit, it ensures consistency. So realistically, the only con that I see is that added staffing part on us. Now, we aren't a pension organization, so that's not gonna have any long-term pension liabilities, anything like that. We're defined contribution, not a defined benefit. So, there's no long-term legacy cost that would encumber us with that added position, so.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
But you say it's a downside, but we got $84,000 extra after we paid that, right?
Correct, yeah.
So really, I don't see a downside on this.
No, I mean, you've gotta find a competent, able, willing body for the role.
That's true. That's true.
Those are in short supply in this day and age.
Well, corrected that way, yes.
And that could be thought of as a downside, but we've been talking about an extra staff member here for about 4 years. Because, yeah. Go ahead.
Kimberly Cook, I live on Colorado Road. Going from a village to a city, taking this money out of the township. Will any of those monies leaving the township affect us? For example, township fire department or any type of. How is this gonna affect the township?
So,
It'll affect probably their we won't have a library, they'll have a library. I imagine the funding for that, most of our money probably goes to a lot of things besides us.
there we go. So this is the anticipated cost to the township, so. You also have to factor in they're going to have a reduction in cost because they're not gonna have to pay
Mhm.
per parcel on assessing, and then total, it's like 2,500 parcels. But the reduction in their taxable value is going to have a net impact after you factor in the assessing impact of 41 for Sherman and 35 roughly for Broomfield. And to offset this, that's why we've consistently said, we have no intention of asking for the division of assets, which is required by law. So we would say, we understand you're gonna be dealing with this, and the law says we're entitled to a percentage of your fund balance based on our percentage of your township. We don't wanna do that, we don't wanna hurt you, and, we're still going to do the 1 mil to fire. So we're still anticipating that 1 mil that everybody already pays. You pay it to us, we pay it to the township for the fire department, so.
Yeah.
That's the impact that the townships would have on their general fund. And what they do from their general fund.
And the only reason I ask that is because we're all still in the same community
Right.
and you're going to get negative comment or pushback that may not be factual.
Yeah.
So it's better to have an understanding when you're taking money from one to another, understand the impact of both.
Right.
So that you can educate, plan, be progressive, move forward.
That's, maybe you wanna go over a little more detail about what we would be allowed to do with the money how much would they potentially have to pay us because by law.
If we did the asset split.
We did the assets.
I think I didn't put it in this presentation because I want
Well, it's come up now.
Yeah.
Did I explain it? Okay. Okay.
By not asking them to give us a portion of the money they have collected through the years that they're hanging on to. By law, we could ask for a split and we're not. We don't want to hurt townships. We just want to do a better job ourselves. So that's another piece, but I think it's important, certainly there's a reduction in their income. But there will be a reduction also in the work they have to do.
Right, their overhead.
Right, overhead, so yes, but we decided as a council, we won't, our job isn't to go after half their money. There's no benefit to that, as you say, as a community member.
Right,
So that's why we've chosen not to do that, although legally we could.
So according to their audits that are available on the Department of Treasury's website, the net position of Broomfield Township in 2022 was $729,000. Sherman's was 1.3 million. Yeah, so that's a big chunk of change, so we want to leave it on the table to not hurt them,
Right.
you know?
and I think that's been clearly stated here, but once you leave this room,
Yeah,
and for those that are not attending,
Yeah.
that's going to be a key question is, how is that going to affect the township? And,
yeah, that's
you
why,
know, and because it is our community, we don't want to harm them, and I don't think you are.
and that's why I
to.
put the law in that slide. The law says assets and liabilities of the township affected by the incorporation shall, not may, shall be divided on the effective date. And we can negotiate out of that. Other places that have incorporated have to maintain that relationship with their township, so.
I mean, we feel that's an important piece. Our job, again, is to be good partners.
Right,
So.
right. But not like I said, if you're not in this room,
Right, true. So we need to communicate it better is what you're saying.
that's Facebook.
Yeah.
Or even worse, next door.
Yeah.
But
So
you
make
met
sure
with
we're-
the Sherman Township and
We've had a meeting with Sherman Township. We've sent a couple of letters so far to Broomfield and they've not reached that back out, but we had a good meeting with Sherman. It was constructive. They certainly understood it. You know, they weren't, you know, happy for us, but you know, they understood the argument and said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense in what you guys want to do.
Well,
Um,
It's
it-
business.
Yes.
You have to look at,
Right.
you have to look at it that way.
Yep.
It is business. It's not.
I look at it a little bit like this. And this is not. It wasn't a big issue when we were 700 people here and we didn't get a lot of, you know. The whole reason the village started is because we wanted our roads plowed. I know that.
Yeah.
So, they got it on the front end. And now we're big enough that and we're kind of in that spot where we either pursue this now or take a chance that it won't happen until 2040.
Right,
and they keep getting the 1%.
yeah, right.
And they keep getting
Yeah.
it. And we don't break away.
So who will plow our roads if we have systems?
Saying, we do
We
that.
still do,
Yeah.
okay,
You unfortunately have the road.
right.
Yeah.
I'm taking investments into mailboxes though.
Now, I have plowed cold water past your house once or twice, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far, the record is 92 feet from the edge of the road to where the mailbox actually landed, so.
That's a good record.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't tell me that you were doing 55.
You guys have a dumpster, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you had a trash can, that sucker'd been launched.
Yes. Yes, no, we have a dumpster. And a 2-post mailbox, so.
Wow. Yikes.
Other questions?
Or comments. I mean, you don't have to ask questions. Do you have an opinion you'd like to share?
I'll just make a quick comment, regarding the Sherman Township side.
I just finished serving on Sugar Township Board for the last 4 years up to this last election. They have a pretty healthy general fund, so yeah, it's gonna make a dent in their fund, but it's not gonna shut them down. It's not gonna hurt them desperately. They are possibly looking into the sewer system that may be forced onto them from Lansing and stuff like that too, but Waveman will qualify very easily for USDA grants and funds because of the lower income cap over there. So I don't foresee this hurting Sherman Township that bad. Tim has a great relationship with, you know, the board over there. I know everybody as well. Before I left that board, I let them know that we were going down this road, because we wanted to be upfront about it. And there were no, you know, major problems at that point.
Well, I see it
For all that
as a
stuff.
benefit because it's growth.
Yes.
But then coming back to dealing with their budget for 4 years. And looking at the amount of taxes that Sherman Township, where I live at, goes to them. The amount of money spent back for Lake Isabella out of the township things that are collected was literally zero. And it's not, and that, I mean, they have their thing to do, and I have to go back and say the only other thing that they did spend some money on was the ARPA funds that were given from the federal government to everybody because of the COVID stuff. They got $180,000. Some of that money was spent on the roundabout track over in Sherman Township Park, which I would at that point qualify to say anybody here at the village could go over and walk on that as well. That's the only thing I can think of money taxes that we spent to Sherman Township that came back to benefit us at all. So that's my most important thing about wanting to become a city. I wanted to do this for years, to bring those taxes that we get to the township back here and let us spend them the way we want to spend them. So
There's also, and I don't mean this in a backhanded way, but there is also some advantage to the township in that, in the short term, going back to this map here of your federal aid eligible roads. So the village is part of what's known as the local rural task force, and it's a meeting that we have every year with the road commission, ICTIC or IRI, whatever they call themselves these days, Rosebush, the tribe, the regional planning commission, Shepherd, and there are pools of money that go into maintaining an all-season road network, but you have to be federal aid eligible road, and you have to plan those projects out 5, 6, 7, 8 years in advance to get some money stacked up, get your capital stacked right. Coldwater Road from Drew Road to 20 is on that long-term plan. If we remain a village, those townships are going to be asked to share on that 20% cost of that project from the road commission. If we are a city, the part in the city, they don't have to compensate the road commission back for it.
Oh.
So the way those pools go, the SDP money, the Fed dollars, it's 80-20, so that program will pick up 80, you gotta pick up 20, and you gotta pick up all the engineering. So the road commission typically does the engineering, and they ask the locals to pick up the 20. So that area within inside our incorporated boundary as a city would not be something they could go back and tell the townships they need to cost share on. Likewise, with the sewer system, if you take Lake Isabella's per capita income and median household values out of your township data, they're going to score considerably better with the USDA when they go to fund that project.
But we're not putting in sewers.
We're not putting in sewers.
You said the magic words. We're not doing it.
Stay there.
Yeah, another question.
And you're saying the townships were required all this time to hold on to this money?
What's your name again?
Oh, sorry, Sandra Strauss.
Okay.
And on Clubhouse Drive.
Look there, she's on Coldwater.
I know. But I feel and have property there. Sorry.
So no, the way what the law says is you divide it based upon basically on the percentage. So whatever fund balance they have accumulated, whether they're, in the process of saving up to pay for a drain or a road, the law says on the effective date of incorporation is that watermark, you say at this point in time, you've got to split the baby in half essentially. If they had just expended a lot of money in a drain or a road project and they had $300,000 fund balance versus 700, it's whatever is the fund balance essentially on that date, the net position.
So do you have only so much time to ask for that from the township?
No, I think, So after, assuming we collect 100 signatures and it goes for the State Boundary Commission. You know, one of the things that we would clearly have in our communique with the state and with the township is. We are not pursuing this, like, we do not want this. You know, we want to maintain good relationships, we understand
Well, that makes it easier,
the impact that it's gonna have.
except, yes.
We don't want to hurt you, you know, beyond what's gonna happen when we pull out.
Yes.
So not only Sherman Township Fire Department is also aware of all of this, and assuming the council wants to do what they will continue doing that same. Not only Sherman Fire contract, in my full response with them, even if we put them in city, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're as a community paying 1 mil to fund our portion of the fire department. The Sherman Township side is paying it to the township, the Broomfield side pays it to us, and we pay it to them. You know, that, all in all, it's $120,000, that the department needs that funds.
Right.
You know, and
But you would still
100%.
pay that. out of-
100%, yeah.
Yeah,
We need that coverage.
well, it just works better when you understand the distribution of funds for negating a conversation for someone that may not
Yes.
perceive this as a positive.
Right.
you know, in other communities that have done it, they've also negotiated with the township, you know, that. Village or city residents would still be able to get, you know, resident rates on the cemetery for 10 years or stuff like that, you know. Trivial stuff like that, but the division of assets is where the fight has always been, and. Most people I know don't want the fight, they just are happy to let you have your money.
We're not burying people in cemeteries anymore. are we? They're all in my bookcase.
Mine are too.
Sherman Township is in charge of 3 cemeteries,
Yeah.
and over the 4 years that I was there, we continually saw more and more people doing cremation.
Yeah.
So, and while I was there, and they're still working on it, they are reorganizing all of the cemeteries.
Yeah.
To make more space for crematorium or
Sure, because-
cremation than full burial. Big change.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a question. So,
Name, please.
Ruben.
pardon me?
Ruben, I can't see it. Name.
Oh, I can see you either.
To talk, you have to tell us who you are.
How would like to see each other? The thing is, if, by any chance it comes to a city. Like right now, we're paying, some of us is paying a little bit of taxes. So what would it be if we go into the city, how much our tax is gonna go up?
No.
Come on,
They're not,
nothing?
so.
No, look,
How long?
look. We pay a mill and it goes to Sherman Township. We vote for a cityhood, we don't pay Sherman Township, that mill that you're already paying, it stays here. That's tax neutral.
So the village gets more tax
So
dollars.
we don't have to give them the 84,000, it's gonna stay here.
So I would say this to Mr. Salinas. There are 2 things that go into making your tax bill. There's the amount of millage that we levy,
Yeah.
and that's what we're saying is tax neutral. Then there's the value of your property, which is controlled through right now a township assessor.
Yeah.
If we become a city, the assessing function resides here with us now in your board of review, which would be like-minded individuals like yourself. Can serve on a board of review and say, no, these values are not correct if someone wanted to challenge them. But the actual millage part of that equation we are proposing is tax neutral. You would have 2 tax bills. Your summer bill would have your village operating, your lake restoration, your fire millage, because you know, that's not going anywhere. That 6.61 mils are paying the county for, you know, road patrol and all those other great services, state education tax. Your 3 debt mills to the town, the school. In the winter, you're paying for your I-Ride, your medical facility, county parks, commission on aging, your $15 for recycling. Your intermediate school district millages for voc, special ed and operational. So like, those are the 2 tax bills you're gonna get right there. 22.3 in the summer, 8.2 in the winter. You know, that side of the equation is tax neutral. What the value part of your property is, we don't control right now.
Yeah, but I heard that when they come to a city, the city can after it's a city, they can raise your taxes anytime they want.
No. So taxes are kept through, the proposal
They
is
say,
the
well,
Headley
they
Amendment.
say, so you gotta vote.
Yeah, so the tax cap would be in our charter. The charter can only be amended by a vote of the people,
Yeah.
which is what it is right now. Like our charter says. Yeah, I'll bring it up for you, Ruben. Let's see here. Section 1002 of our charter. 1002. So when I say we have a charter that can be easily transported into a cityhood. We'll make it as big as I can. On the approval of this charter, the annual general ad valorem tax levy for the village shall not exceed 1 mil of the assessed value of real and personal property in the village. This may be only increased by a majority vote of those electors voting thereon at any regular village election or special election called for that purpose. At any time, the total of all additional millages being levied by the village council, which are approved by the electorate under this section, shall not exceed 10 mills and cannot exceed 12 years. So if you just replace that 1 with 2, that's what you get in terms of what we're telling you,
Ruben, let me put it this way.
tax neutral.
If we put 3% in, let's just say we change the charter and we put, the charter committee puts 3% in, right?
You're right.
Down, vote the city down.
Yeah.
You have a right, you're gonna be able to see the charter.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you can vote it down or vote forward, okay? If we wanna do a higher tax later on, you have to vote for it. We can't just raise your taxes, you have to vote for
Oh,
it. So
they can't do it on their own.
we can't do it on our
All
own.
of us.
Same reason we don't have sheriff out here anymore.
No, it's just, you know,
Yeah,
but I heard that, when it comes to a city, you,
no,
after no plan, they can.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, you didn't hear it here.
right,
So they could only do that.
Again, this is the message
yep,
So Ruben,
that needs to be.
I think what
dispersed,
you're potentially hearing is like,
because that's what we're.
if they're not at their cap. So if their tax cap in their city charter say is 20 mils, which is what it can be by law, and they're only at 15 mils. They could then, yeah, they could do that because they haven't hit their cap. We're gonna be at our cap from day one. You know, so there's no authority, assuming it's the 2 mil that we're selling and trying to vision out here. There's no opportunity for that to go higher except at the ballot box if you want to.
And you, the last meeting you said that, police department.
Yep.
So if you become a city, who's gonna take care of that Mount Pleasant?
So whether we're a village or a city has no impact on if we partner with the city of Mount Pleasant, if the sheriff department comes back, if we start our own. You know, one of the things that we've been working on for more information in these next few meetings. The biggest hurdle I think right now for us is that unknown of what's gonna happen with the county. Because if the county's gonna come back and get their act together and present a reasonable funding request for the road patrol in 2026. There's a decent chance I think it passes. You know, so as a local community, we're left in this limbo state of. We need to make sure that we have a public service option available to our residents that we can lean into when we need to. But we also don't want to make a very poor business decision and have a big outlay for funding and starting a police department that we may not need in 18 months or 2 years. So like, you know, we've been trying to be proactive. So we have a code enforcement car that we ordinance. That's a former police car that we could, you know, refurb and put the police stuff back into it at a nominal cost if we had to jump into that business. So we've been trying to position ourselves that, God forbid we have to, it's not gonna be the worst case financial scenario. But that's not anybody up here's priority is to start our own department. We would, I think, much rather be in the world where we have the sheriff's department again. We're certainly happy for the relationship we have with the city.
The
Yeah,
state's been doing a great job.
State's been doing a good job, you know, but
There just aren't many.
There just aren't many.
No, but I hear them all the time. Don't know where they're going, but I hear them all the time.
But you know, we're seeing more and more complaints of problems that we cannot address because we don't have a road patrol to lean into, things like speed, things like kids on golf carts, things like ORV speeding, things like loud boats at Party Point. You know, these are things that we have limited resources when we're dealing with it just through a civil infraction ordinance process to address.
We were talking earlier about the crosswalk.
Yeah.
At the pole. One of the areas that I frequent uses rumble strips on the road to get your attention. And that may be an inexpensive, but a good way to bring attention to a sign for a crosswalk. To get people to slow down, look ahead, recognize the fact that something is different.
Yeah, what I've looked at, mainly because we have a grant request out right now for redoing that part of Queensway. That if we were successful, then we're gonna repave that section of road, potentially something like this. So you've got the raised, it's very modest, it's slightly raised, but it's enough that there's visibility, it slows traffic. But you really need to do that when you're paving the road. It's not really gonna be functional to just come back later and dump a bunch of asphalt there, but you know, it's something that we are definitely looking into in terms of what we can do safely that isn't going to negatively impact our Act 51 money, because with major streets, you do have to have a little bit more deference for traffic than pedestrians in terms of stop signs and those kind of things. Especially when you don't have a street network that has sidewalks where you would have natural crosswalks happening.
So have you voted yet on the law enforcement coverage?
No, we have not.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to agenda item number 7, which is public hearing for resolution 2025 and Village Lots. Public hearing is open at 8:02. Mr. Manager.
Well, you have one public hearing this month is for a resolution to authorize the sale of 6 lots that we own up in Lakesville and North. We talked a little bit about this last month. The Planning Commission has reviewed this from earlier in the year. These are a few of our straggler odds and ends and aren't part of that main body of lots we have up on the north end. One thing that is different, we have a different county treasurer now than we have in the past when we've disposed of surplus property. And because 4 of these lots were previously claimed for public purpose from the DNR back in the day, they're required to be sold at fair market value. When I asked the current treasurer what your feeling was about that, I was told twice the SEV. Okay, so we went and did the SEV data for all the vacant adjacent lots and came up with twice that number. So that's why you have 84, 86, 86, and 86 for those 4 lots. Those 4 lots, all of the proceeds must be returned to the county because they're claimed for public purpose back in the day. Those proceeds go into the county's DTR fund, delinquent tax revolving fund. The other 2, 23 and 267, are ones that came back to us through chargeback. So the way the tax conversion process works is every year on March 1st, we do a settlement with the county where they buy up our unpaid tax bills. They become the collector. If it gets foreclosed, they offer it for auction. If it doesn't sell, then they come back and say, hey, remember that money we gave you for your taxes a few years ago? You need to give that back to us with some interest. And because we didn't sell this piece of property and here's the deed to it. Since those weren't claimed for public purpose, we do not have to sell those at what the twice SEV fair market value is. Looking at what vacant property is selling for in Lakesville and North, you know, 6,000 to 7,000 seems to be kind of the sweet spot of what we're seeing things listed for right now on vacant lots. So I put it at that number right there, 6,250. We did have an email before the meeting and public comments that I printed. I don't think I sent, but can answer those right now.
We got an email.
You all got an email, but we do need to enter them into the record. Questions were from the Holcombs on Pyrenees Drive. Do any of the lots being proposed for sale, have any potential buyers already in line to secure them? No, we've not contacted anybody about them. In the past, what we've done and what we would do through this resolution is notify the adjacent owners and give them kind of a 2-week window before we offer to the general public. If they want to get it, and then if they decline, then we'll go on sale to the general public.
Adjacent being how many feet?
Next door, you gotta be touching. Will the village zoning commission be able to zone these as commercial or special interest without a vote of the people? I explained the process for zoning, so they're already zoned residential. Our master plan has criteria in there that must be met to rezone property. There's no reason to think that they would ever be zoned commercial. They're also restricted by the building use restrictions for Lake Isabella North that say residential use only, so. There's not a zoning issue that these are gonna be commercial or anything like that. They're gonna be Lake Residential 1. And then, are we exploring the option of purchasing any of the 90 properties currently for sale on the north side of the lake? I don't know exactly what that question was about, but I think they were looking at the lots we're talking about later that are already ours. So, you know, we're not looking at buying those, we already own them. We're looking at maybe getting rid of them, so. That was the only comment or question before the meeting that came in, sir.
Okay, any comments, questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, public portion is closed. Anybody on the council? Questions for Mr. Wolf? Okay, so the public hearing then is closed at 8:07. What's your pleasure, council?
Need a motion.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
I move that we accept resolution 2025-10.
Motion made by Shannon to accept resolution 2025-10. Seconded by CUNY. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Joe Latte,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Carrie Behringer,
Yes.
Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, second part of, or second public comment portion. The public comment.
Please, we have people.
Anybody?
I'm gonna Jeff Gray from 1009 Bequina. You haven't come to it yet, but under the new business part with the Lake Isabella North discussion, I just wanted to put in a little bit of 2 cents. I know we're gonna be discussing that because I've already seen some of the map of where the areas you're talking about. I would like to have you guys at least bring in the rest of Saragossa Court as potentially part of that. Lots in the north end to be looked at and be sold as well, so. Tim's aware of why I'm asking and saying that, so, but. That's it, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Public comment closed. Let's go to existing business, agenda item 9. Public safety arrangement and agreement, city of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Wolf.
So yeah, we're joined tonight by the mayor of Mount Pleasant, who's joined us for this part of the meeting as well. But you have in your packet a proposed agreement with the city of Mount Pleasant that their city commission has already ratified. It would provide us an opportunity to contract and schedule with their police department for a limited number of hours, essentially, nothing that would be, I think, a burden on their department. We can do it in 3-hour increments from the discussions I've had with Director of Public Safety, Paul Laurie. In looking at available options to us as a community in terms of finding a dance partner for public safety services, so we don't have to create our own department, the city of Mount Pleasant is unquestionably the best option available to us. They're a fantastic organization. They're well-trained, they're well-equipped, and they're well-staffed, and they're well-supported by their community. They're someone that I'd be very proud to have in our community serving us, quite frankly. With that, I think we've talked about this extensively. I don't know if you have any questions for the mayor, but. We're very, very appreciative that they're willing to do this with
Do you
us.
want to say anything?
Yeah. Let's see, so just a bit of statement, good evening, I'm Mayor Boomer Wingard of the city of Mount Pleasant. I wanted to attend today's meeting to introduce myself and say that, as pending your approval of this, that Mount Pleasant looks forward to and is proud to be able to offer this partnership with the Village of Lake Isabella. To quote Director Paul Loria of Mount Pleasant Public Safety Division, this agreement enhances public safety in the Village of Lake Isabella by leveraging the resources and expertise of the Mount Pleasant Police Department. It reflects a clear, professional, and mutually beneficial partnership between the two communities. I'd like to say that, last November, when the county's public safety millage, was on the ballots, while it ultimately did not pass for a variety of reasons. A majority of Mount Pleasant residents voted to approve that millage. I'm not here to discuss right or wrong or the financial political responsibility of the matter. What I will say is that those votes in favor weren't cast because the city would lose a service vital to our operations. And they weren't cast because city residents love paying taxes. That's just not the case. I see that that's the case here. Ultimately, the sentiment most residents shared with me that swayed them to vote in favor of the millage. And what I want to highlight by speaking here this evening was that they wanted to be a good neighbor to those in the community without the same resources you will find in the Mount Pleasant Public Safety Division. That is the spirit in which Mount Pleasant residents approach most decisions. How can we be good neighbors? It is my hope that the desire to be good neighbors, to be good partners is felt in this agreement between the city of Mount Pleasant and the Village of Lake Isabella. Our residents want to see us working together, want to know we can accomplish things together. I don't think that's just this one thing, but I think that's just government in general. They want us to know we can accomplish things when we actually sit down and hammer out an agreement. I'd like to offer my thanks and appreciation to Director Gloria of Mount Pleasant Public Safety and to Village Manager Tim Wolf for collaborating to make this partnership a reality. Our team looks forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay. We need a motion, yeah.
I had questions, I guess, just for
Okay,
us, not
go
for him. As far as like paying for the services, can we still levy? Are we still levying that third of a mill or is
No.
that's canceled?
No.
I just didn't know if we had like money in the budget to
Oh, yeah.
pay for the police services.
We were paying for out of our general fund.
Yeah,
We put money in there from our general fund to do it. That's why we have a, somewhat of a fund deficit this fiscal year. Next projected is because we're paying for this out of general fund and not through a millage, so.
And it's good to point out that what happened in that third of the mill.
So yeah, so our community voted to fund road patrols. And we were levying a third of a mill and supplementing it with our general fund money. We used our ARPA money to do it. And we levied that for 1 year. And we're July 1 fiscal. So as we're looking at our budget last year. And saying, we've got this millage to fund this service, and we don't know if that service is going to be there. In 6 months and a year and 9 months, whatever,
Because the language on the millage
was
was
restricted to the sheriff's department.
restricted to the sheriff's department.
Yep. So we said, our recommendation, you council fully supported was, we cannot in good conscience put this on our residents' tax bill, not knowing if that's a service that's going to be there for the full year. We said we will pay for whatever we need to out of our general fund at that point in time. So
So we didn't levy the millage.
we didn't levy it last year, we didn't levy it this year. During the length of that millage, we collected 36,000 and spent 59,000, so we definitely, paid from our side of the table. And then quite frankly, there's not been an election since then to look at doing a millage for our community. We haven't talked seriously about it in, the discussion that this group had then was, we don't want to put something on the November ballot to compete against the sheriff's department millage because our residents may vote for this and not that, and it was a horrible situation for us because it's something that we do want to provide to our community, but being a good neighbor, we didn't want to compete at the ballot box too, so.
Yep. So that's the history.
And what we were paying for the sheriff
control versus what the city wants.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference, you know, but.
Considerable difference.
When would we look to get this on the election ballot, like to fund it? Can it happen this year, or would it be the following year?
And if you wanna pay for a special election,
Yeah, so it'd be next year.
so next year, our general election is in November. There's a statewide primary in August. I'm not sure if there's gonna be any school elections that come up in May, but those are your 3 dates, so we're already past being able to put something in the 2025 November election window, so. If you wanted to look at doing something in 2026, the big question I think you have to figure out is there gonna be something from the county in 2026 on the ballot as well?
Same position we were
In
in.
the position you've been in.
So we only want to compete against them if they want to.
Yeah,
My question is still, given what the city is asking for this contract versus what we were paying, it's considerable difference. Is there any, are we getting additional road patrol or additional services or? Why the increase in cost?
I will say this very eloquently. One organization I think has a better grasp of the finances of what it takes to run a department. And I'll leave it at that.
That was as elegant as you could be.
That is, I'm gonna be, folks.
Well, the elegant that is, what we were paying for a service versus what we're going to be paying for basically the
Correct.
same service.
Yeah.
Seems rather excessive to me.
The sheriff's department built in none of the equipment costs, none of the other overhead, other than basically the deputies' wages.
And that's why they're in the spot they're in.
That's why
Right,
the village failed.
So, yeah,
The city's protecting themselves.
Yes.
But I could see in talking to Tim and asking him questions. Yes, it is quite a bit more, Bob, and I can understand your concern there, yes. But the city looked at it. We're not gonna give anything away. You're asking us for a service. We're gonna give you a true price.
Yeah.
The county kinda didn't give us a true price. If they would have gave us a true price, it probably would have been somewhere around the area that city of Mount Pleasant is now.
And you also have to factor in the different wages and benefits between the two organizations, where the sheriff has been to many meetings out here over the years, and he's always talked to you about being short-staffed, we're at 16 of 18, we're at 18 of 21, The Isabella County Sheriff's Department has always been the low employer on the law enforcement totem pole in our community, in our county. Their wages and benefits are not competitive with the city, with CMU, with even the tribe now, quite frankly. So those are factors that go into that cost in terms of there is a much higher cost to this than we were paying with the county. But you're also getting a much different partner too.
correct.
I'm okay paying with it out of the general fund just because we had it on a millage and it wasn't our fault that it went away, but I don't want to just pay for it out of the general fund forever.
No.
It needs an election to see if we want to continue to fund it and let the taxpayers fund it, but
Well, that's
they have, but
right.
circumstances out of our control canceled that, so.
Right.
If
And
we're
that
just
was-
bridging the gap, I'm okay with that, for a long, but we'd have to figure out some kind of reasonable date.
Correct.
By November of 2026,
Yeah.
needs to at least be on that one.
Depending upon what the county does.
Right.
If the county.
That's what we're waiting on. So we
Right.
can't make that.
But then the county may come back with a higher price than the city. You never know, because they're gonna look at the contract and,
I mean,
you might stay with the city.
even if the county does come back, you're going to see them struggle immensely to fill those positions.
Yes, yes.
You have the uncertainty of the department to begin with, added to the HR issues I just talked about in terms of where they're at,
Right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And that quite frankly was one of the most frustrating parts of this experience with the county was at no point did they ever come to us and say, we know you're paying through a millage to support this service, would you be willing to pay more for a dedicated person to stay on our department? That was never once given to us as an opportunity. It was all or nothing, take it or leave it.
We also didn't have control of the schedule.
No.
Where we do have now.
So, yeah,
So I think it's a better,
I think,
better system. Yes,
I think-
we do.
I think that, Brent's point.
Yeah.
Is that, we still can ask for a millage, maybe we
100%.
just contract with Mount Pleasant instead of the sheriff's department. You
Sure.
just
yeah,
Right.
ask for a
Yeah.
millage to support it rather than the third that went
Yeah.
away. Cause we didn't levy it.
Right.
no,
So that still can be next November.
or August potentially, if you want
August.
to pay for it earlier.
So that's where you were going with it.
Yeah, as long as it's gonna hit a vote to the taxpayers in the
Right.
near future,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine bridging the gap with the general fund money.
Yeah, we-
Because they've already voted for it, passed it.
Yeah, we've put money in this fiscal year and next fiscal year to cover. I think even if we go in November of 2026, you're not gonna collect until July 2027,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion. Did someone make it? Didn't know, made it, did they?
No, not yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion made by Berenger to accept the contract from public safety agreement in Mount City of Mount Pleasant. Is there a second? Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Seconded by Peavy. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Robert Laraway. Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Carrie Behringer,
Yes.
Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Joe Latte,
Yes.
Dave Torres.
Yes. Motion carries 6-1. New business. MML Workers Comp. Fund Directors Bell.
So in our wheelhouse of insurances, we are part of the Michigan Municipal League Workers' Compensation Fund. It is a member governed pool for our work comp. You have the ballot in front of you for the 4 directors that are up for election this year. For us to officially cast a ballot, it has to be done through some type of action of this board.
Didn't we allow you to vote on that last night?
You did.
Is everybody good with that?
Proxy Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That form of motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we allow Tim to proxy that vote and just so.
Motion made by PV to give Tim the proxy for voting. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Seconded by CUNY. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. You got the power, Tim. All right.
Write my name in 4 times.
Liaison Committee.
So in addition to the Lake Restoration Committee, which has been meeting, pretty regularly for the last 2-3 years at this point in time. The precursor to that is the Liaison Committee, which is for basically everything outside of the dredging project. We only met once last year, we have an agreement going back to 2008 that says these are the dates that we would meet each year. Well, our next one would be August 25th is, if we need to have a meeting, I don't know if we do, but I wanted to present it to you. The Liaison Committee is represented by Berenger, Shannon, and Latte, with Cooney as an alternate, and then also myself.
Okay, we'll be hosting it this time?
We typically always host it.
Okay.
No matter what that says, they're always here.
Oh, but if there's nothing from this board, I can let George know and say, we want to meet, we're happy to meet. But we don't have anything to offer. I can't think of anything that's,
I mean, we do it, basically, we're doing the same thing with the Lake Committee.
yeah, the Lake Committee, the difference there is. The Lake Committee is a third village, a third association, and a third of the community members at large, so, but. There is certainly ongoing frequent interaction between our 2 organizations.
That's
Which
the
will basically the intent of
intent of liaison. So.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't do anything, but then if they want a meeting, we'll have a meeting.
Sure, yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
The only thing that I can think of is just a better explanation about, you know, when we're using public funds, like on a millage, certain protocols have to be followed. It's not that, you know, we're trying to be sticklers on that. It's just the law. And, you know, you can't obey the public's trust. Like you have to take votes and talk about things in an open meeting. And it's not,
But that should be handled by the lake committee, our representatives on the lake committee.
Well, but those lines were a little bit
Yeah.
mixed up
Yeah,
I was
on last time.
just throwing stuff out there. If there needed to be a liaison thing, it'd be a good topic to, you know, kind of explain ourselves more, because I mean, they can just, you know. Throw names in a hat, and, you know, do secret votes and make decisions, you know, but we can't.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
It's not legal.
Yeah.
we don't have hats, that's the thing.
So, yeah, but
Oh,
you don't want to meet for that reason, or that would be a topic if they decide to meet.
if you decide to meet, I think that would be a decent discussion.
Yeah.
For something like that, but I mean, we are working together a lot on the lake dredging aspect, and I don't want to sign people on this committee up for an extra meeting, but.
so you.
I'm on the committee, so.
I didn't see your name on that.
Okay.
So what do you think? Just gonna wait and see if that's
Yeah,
a topic then.
Throw it out,
Guys?
throw it up then, hey, you got something you
All
wanna talk about?
Okay,
Sounds good.
One of the fuel flag, well,
Okay. Let's go on to north discussion.
your last item of business tonight, Mr. Chair, is a discussion and hopefully some direction regarding our lots in Lake Isabella North. So going back to what we talked about back in the public hearing portion of the meeting. There is a large chunk of property in Lake Isabella North that is currently owned by the village of Lake Isabella. It's gonna bring up the county map viewer here. In that area of the village. Our current master plan, our previous master plan, our Parks and Rec master plan. Has always focused on potential to do something within one specific area of that block of property. Right there. So that block of property is right along here. This is the area along Drew Road, kind of north to Iberian. And if we were to get the old GIS measurement tool out here, not do it wrong. Starting at lot 290, if we were to bring this over this way, kind of roughly. What you're gonna see is that this area that we have in here is about 7.8, 7.9. So all of our plans, everything have always talked about that chunk of property. Well, in addition to that chunk of property, we own all of this down here. We own all of this up here. And up here too. All of this, and I stress all, ALL, are lots that got claimed from the state for public purpose. We get $0 back if we sell them. The sale proceeds would go to the county delinquent tax revolving fund, same as the 4 lots in that resolution earlier. So knowing that, there's never been a big push from the council to do a whole lot because there's no financial incentive for us and potentially maybe we could do something here long term. Well, we are in the process of updating our master plan. And as you know, we did a target housing market analysis. That TMA said that we have potential for 50 new homes a year in this community. That's what the market would support for development in Lake Isabella, is 50 homes a year.
wow.
Now, we're not seeing that, obviously. There aren't builders to do that. And the builders that are here are building wonderful homes, but they're building for a certain segment of the market. One of the things that we lost when the economy took a nosedive in 2008 was we lost people building quality spec homes for younger families, essentially. I wouldn't say affordable housing because that's a different demographic group, but starter family homes for people. And the planning commission, through talking about that, said, you know, what if there is potential to do something along those lots in north that we have, specifically along Iberian and maybe back on Saragossa Court, the ones that Jeff referenced earlier, they're marked in red. So the ones in red are the ones that I would propose right now that we would focus on keeping. You have that block on north, you have the two corner lots, we've always held corner lots just so we can maintain clearance and visibility purposes. So you have the one at Drew and Queensway, El Camino and Canterbury. And then as you go to that curve on Iberian, that canyon that runs through there, keep both lots on each side of that. For the same reason why I didn't include the lots on the back end of Saragossa. If you go out and actually look at it and look at the topography of the land, this canyon and this hill, I'm right through here.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of material it would take to make this developable, to me, says maybe it's better as a sledding hill. But looking at that, I have not had any conversations with the county or with any other outside entities yet in terms of, is there anything that they would entertain in terms of a structured project with a developer to do any type of home development? Modeling the size of our current development in there, so you're looking at 2 lots, you know, lot and a half, 2 lots. Yeah, you have potential for maybe 15 homes. Not a huge number, not a big, you know, we're gonna change the neighborhood's aesthetic completely. But if you doubled up lots and or went with lot and a half on some of them, or 3 lots, you know, you're looking at 15 homes maxing out that area, you know, probably a little bit less. You know, the biggest hurdle that we run into in this discussion is that public purpose clause. So they were claimed for public purpose. There is a process that needs to be followed for disposing those on the open market. Working with, you know, a developer is not part of that process. So my ask from you is, if this is something you think should at least be talked about in more detail, can I at least go have a conversation with the county treasurer? Can I have a conversation maybe with the state land bank authority to say, what are some options here that we could look at that would allow us to do something that would help address housing needs in our area, in our region, and also put property backs on the roll for taxes? You know, everyone benefits when there's development here, you know. We don't have a sewer system, we don't have a water system, you're not gonna see, you know, density happening here, you're gonna see homes potentially meeting the neighborhood aesthetics of, you know, a lot or a house on every other lot, you know, type deal. Again, we get no money from selling these lots. I want to be exceptionally clear about that. We're not doing this for that reason.
So what's the process? Does it cost us to sell them?
No,
I
We
mean,
just give the money to the state.
I know,
Yeah.
but a realtor lists them, does it cost us
we
anything
wouldn't
to?
worry about their list.
No, okay, so we just put them out there and people can,
Potentially, depends on and what the county says and in going from there. You know, I think there's an opportunity to potentially talk to a land bank authority at the state about a project. Our county does not have a land bank. We're one of the few that don't, in the state of Michigan. And the land bank authority would give you a lot more flexibility in terms of doing a structured project with a known outcome, rather than if we just put them on the market, people buy them and speculate them and sit on them and nothing happens.
Right.
Like, to me, that doesn't advance anything. We might as well just leave it as free space. you know?
Right.
I know, we had that discussion about with the planning, about the need for entry level homes.
Mhm.
And I know people personally who want to move out here, they're single, they want to get married,
Mhm.
this is where they want to be, but they don't have, you know, money for the
Yep.
the typical homes that are sold here. I think that would be a big benefit to our community going forward, if there's something we can come up with to put a project like that. That would be a good chunk for a starting neighborhood,
Mhm.
and getting people into our market. And then also, you know, with the plans for, you know, keeping the red area and the possibility of a park system or a cemetery. Something that's public use.
Yeah.
I know, like, my husband wants to be buried on our lot, which, you know, I'd rather him go there.
That's not telling.
Well, I did find online now they have tree pods that you can put your ashes in, and so I'm like, well, I could put you in a tree. I sent it to him, but he didn't respond, so.
We can always set them up in a firework.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have tree pods where you can put the ashes and plant.
You got
the
room on your
tree.
bookcase?
But yeah, I think.
Dad's in the lake.
Even the, like. You know, the getting money back in other ways, like with the influx of young families or new people who actually do wanna come out here, they're just kind of stymied because they're just starting.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be a good one.
Yeah, I think you have the leeway to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I would entertain like talking about it, but I'm with you. I don't know what to want to sell it at this point. I mean, there are plenty of lots still for sale. I think you just let it keep.
Yeah, the move for us would be if there's a opportunity to work with the county or the land bank authority to do a project that is with a home developer, like we looked at this at the planning commission level. You know, there's one developer in particular who's reached out to a lot of communities that's tied with MISTA, that's doing, you know, good quality housing projects around the state. They just need the land. You know, if there's a way for us to structure that type of relationship, that was what I'd come back to you guys with, we asked for at that one time.
So that we could determine the value of the home then, that would be affordable.
Maybe there's a huge. Thought I saw something there with a big push of the state, obviously
Yes.
upping
Yep.
affordable
He's
housing.
doing it too.
Because there's a need.
Yep. And just so people know, that is the drawing of the cemetery that was done potentially for that area up in the red, so. We say we've looked at having a cemetery, like, it's real, we looked at having a cemetery.
No traffic.
There's no traffic.
I just think like that relation, like you're so far away from houses, like we'd have options for zonings. Like, I mean, if you wanted to rezone it like a business district there. So I mean, as we're growing, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like the right time for us now, but maybe in 20 years to have that option, there might not be any other spots for business, like right on Drew Road. I mean, a lot of people go down Drew Road.
Yeah, you know, in our master plan, we do have. A couple of different options that we've talked about potentially as things that could be done on that area. One of them was. You know, is it the technology park? Because we do have fiber to the home across the community now, so, you know, Homework Strike County, is there an opportunity to do that there? Is it something that we could put in a 5, 6, 7 acre solar field and have that as a revenue stream? And have a walking trail around it? If the transmission line is literally across the street, it's a perfect place to tie in. It's not taking up farmland from anybody. You know, is there an opportunity to do a different home type development up there where you have your homes front each other and your garages come in off of Drew and off of Iberian, so you have a more traditional, older style neighborhood where you have porches looking at each other face to face. Yeah, we've had a ton of conversations about what to do up in that area. Nothing's ever stuck though.
In the discussions that you're gonna have, you'll be able to come up with information for us that will basically tell us what we will be able to do with
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's a phenomenal idea.
Yep.
You know, and we can talk about all we want, but until we know what our actual options are,
Yeah.
it's kind of moving.
I just didn't want to get too far in front of the court and you guys say, no, we have no interest in doing this, but.
Yeah, I think having the information available to us is absolutely necessary, you know, whether it be now or in the future, I mean.
We're not agreeing to anything really.
No,
right.
He's
No,
gonna.
you're just gonna explore them.
Yeah,
All right,
good.
thank you. You done there? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
public comment? Hey, Boomer.
First, I just wanted to thank the board for the opportunity to work with you folks at our public safety departments. I think none of us are under the impression that this is forever, that this is the foreseeable future and everything. that we can fill that gap, that we can help them meet that need, that is something that we are proud to be able to do. But county, anything else, and with whether or not you want to do your own police service, there's a lot of options available too. But again, as long as there's that need, we're happy to meet that. And again, it is a partnership, so it does reflect a bit of the true cost of what it takes for people who normally our operations are 20 minutes away. So it's just concentrated in that small area. So part of that is we don't have cruisers in the area normally. So we do have to send them out where they are. So again, I just wanted to offer my thanks and look forward to working with you all. Other aspect of it, a lot of different things I wanted to jump in and comment on, as another person sits on a board. It's a bit of a fresh, breath of fresh air actually to be here this evening for myself. I spend a lot of weeks just really down, like in my head and everything. I'm like, oh gosh, we're having this fight again. Like, how are we gonna overcome this terrible issue at the city? And then I come here and I find, like, as you're talking about becoming a city, as you're talking about like the zoning and like the different plots of land here, I hear the same discussions that we're having at the city over and over. So it's just good to know that like everyone out there is having these same problems. I would say housing especially. If you read the Morning Sun, you know that like Mount Pleasant's dealing with a lot of housing issues. So if you put houses there, I'm not trying to tell the board what to do or anything, but I'm sure they will fill up there. And so, again, I just appreciate just hearing that these discussions are happening here, back home, everywhere. So, just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Just as a supportive comment, Georgetown, 1283 Queensville, I really am intrigued with the concept, and I can't imagine public purpose being an issue. When we can grant 50% tax forgiveness, that's public purpose. This is for really more publicly oriented. And your approach of maybe looking for private developers, developer, and really just modeling what they're doing in Florida and all the gated communities. And you may have to modify the size restrictions to smaller home sizes and so forth. And I find it very enlightening. Great meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Coming out.
It's a compliment.
I would volunteer some assistance with builders. I've spent 30 years working with national builders from East Coast to West Coast.
Cool.
And there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for build on your own lot. As well as having 40 acres here. We've discussed many times, the one thing that this neighborhood lacks is senior housing. Or step down housing from a condominium to assisted living to maybe a nursing home within this community. And because I was already working 80 hours a week and traveling Monday through Friday, my husband said, absolutely not, because this is gonna fall on me. But that is something I would like to see the community look at. My son runs Veterans Resource Group, and they deal with the housing authority in the Detroit metro area where they're putting in the bridge. It is politically driven in the dirt. I mean, they have been working on this housing project for veterans, have the building, have the permits, have the funding. We're ongoing 4 years. So nothing is gonna happen fast, but if you're interested in connecting with any builders, I can connect you with some resources of builders that will come actually in and build these spec homes for you.
So I would encourage you, if you're interested, on our webpage, linkisbellmi.org, if you go to your services under planning and zoning, the top one right now is the target market housing analysis we had done last year. So if you're interested. And honestly, the most shocking part of that, besides the 50 homes per year, was there is not, based on the research that our consultant did, a market potential out here for attached dwellings
Yeah.
very, very limited, you
Yes.
know. They brought out, examples. That, you know, there may be some opportunities if there were. You know. Type of homes where you're not, like a duplex where you don't share a common entrance essentially, so like. They looked at Mount Pleasant ordinance as well, but. Where are they? They had some examples in here I was gonna share. Yes, like in the. The duplex style homes. You know, something where you're not sharing the same entrance, so like this. This type of structure here down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Is something that has potential here, even the double. You know, but those were the exception and not the norm to what they're telling us we have a market for out here.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing that was, you know, really kind of the hard pill to swallow, if you look at the data on what the market would support. It was like 350,000 was kind of like that sweet spot, like, you know, we need to be lower than that. We,
Oh, yeah.
you know. And that's something that we've had a lot of conversations here about is that, you know, when the market went down in 2008. It opened up a tremendous opportunity for families to move here, and for the first time in our community's history, because we started in the late '60s as a recreational development. And that was what we were forever. I've been here 21 years.
30 years.
And I have seen this community change handedly in my time here. To where you have people say they're from Lake Isabella, and that wasn't the case 20 years ago. And they can say that because there was that opportunity with what the market did in 08. And so when we're seeing that, you know, our median impact market here can be in around the 300,000, we know that isn't going to.
Right.
Keep that going. That's gonna be a
You
different
need
market
to target a younger generation
right there.
in this community, hate to say that, but.
Been for that all.
You need to target that or the.
Yep.
It's going to change dramatically.
Yeah, that's on page
Schools.
31.
Yes.
Yeah.
Schools, big time.
Anyone else?
It's the point.
Good discussion.
If I see you walk along Clubhouse Drive, I'll direct you where you gotta go.
You're so helpful. I don't live here, I own property here though.
Oh, who had the guts to walk Coldwater Road? I don't.
Yeah. Elsa, comments?
The Coldwater, but no way.
Yeah, I would.
Tim, Brian?
I'd like to thank everyone that came for the city discussion, and if you hear of naysayers that maybe, you know. Don't know the correct information, encourage them to come to one of our meetings, and you don't need to argue with them, let them come and hear it with their own ears.
I can argue great.
Yeah. Let them
What
debate too.
I wasn't aware of, I knew the millage had passed for the sheriff's department. I was not aware that it wasn't levied.
Yeah.
So,
Nobody noticed.
Yeah.
right, so going, because my taxes still went up. Well, I added property, so. It's not right. In all fairness, I added property to it. One of the things is how you deliver the message. So if you go for this again, which I hope you do. Make sure that you put that out there everywhere. That it was passed before, but not levied. We haven't paid for it yet.
Good point.
Anybody else, comments? Okay, we stand adjourned. Yeah.